Hello everyone, it's Angie here at Beads and Plenty More. Today I thought I'd show you how to do this gingerbread man done with the stiff felt, and it's got some beadwork stitched onto it. So this is done with a cookie cutter, and I happen to have a gingerbread cookie cutter. This is a chance to raid your cookie cutters. If you've got all sorts of different Christmas ones, you could come up with all sorts of Christmas shapes. And then it's done on stiff felt, which is a stiffer felt. So I took the cookie cutter and I really just traced around it with a pen. Now remember, you need two of these because you need a front and a back. So I actually found it was soft enough that I could actually just match my two pieces of felt up together and cut them together. But I've got my front and my back here. Now that I've got that, what I did next is I marked where I wanted to put my special pieces. So I've got my buttons and a mouth and two eyes there. And how I marked those is I actually marked them on the back side. Because if I mark on the front and I don't get the bead right directly on top of it, I might not be happy and it might show. So by marking on the back side, you don't see it, and I can just stitch from the back side to find my spot. So if I just bring my thread up here and then back down. So this thread is a nylon thread, a Nymo thread. This Miyuki brand also works really well for this, and it comes in lots of colors. So I've stitched up and I've stitched down. I'm on the back side, and I'm just going to tie my two ends together to hold it in place. I'll move the back guy out of there. And then I'm going to come back up to the front side again, and we're going to put the first of the buttons on. So that's a size 6 seed bead, and then a little, either a 10 or an 11. And I skip the 10 or 11 and go back down the size 6, and it just kind of pops into place. So then I can move over to my next spot. One thing I will say about this is don't jump more than about an inch. So if you're working with a different pattern than this cookie cutter and you want to move over to a different spot, you might have to stop your thread and start a new thread over in your new spot if it's a long distance, because you'll end up pulling it out of shape. But if it's less than an inch, generally you can get away with just jumping forward. So I didn't grab a different color for the mouth, but we'll just put some yellow ones on today. Maybe 5 or 6 here. And I can just come up and tack those in place where I want them. So let's come up kind of right in here. Got a nice little knot going on the back side. That's just my tail thread tangling up in my thread here. So I'm just stitching over the thread. I'm actually not stitching through any of the beads here. I'm just tacking it down by stitching over the thread. And I could tack it down in a few more spots too. And then I need to add a couple eyes. But I'm going to jump ahead and I'm going to show you how to do the outside edge. So we'll match our back up again. And this, I would start with a fresh needle and thread. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to come through my two pieces. We'll just get rid of that needle for now. And I'm going to tie my two sides together. So I've got the tail thread and I've got my working thread here. And whatever knot works, it doesn't have to be a fancy knot. Okay, so secured in place. I can take this tail thread and I can just tuck it between my two pieces, which will hide it. It will disappear. And then, so this very first stitch, I'm going to grab 2 seed beads. So I've got 2 size 11s here. And I'm going to move over a little bit. Pop my, so I'm stitching from the back side and I'm going through both pieces. And if I pop that back up, I've got bead 1, bead 2. I'm going to come back through the second bead. So I get this pulled tight. And what you'll see is the beads will kind of sit on the edge of the fabric there and just kind of sit with their holes out. So we'll do another one here. So from this point forward, I'm moving with just 1 bead at a time. So I move over a little bit. It's only the first stitch that you're going to put 2 beads on. Try not to hook everything. And you're coming back through just that last one. So this works as an edging if you're doing any sort of beaded work. And you may notice that my needle's not very long. You want a short needle when you're working with fabric or of any sort, because you're poking it through the fabric, and every time you poke it through the fabric, you can end up bending a longer needle. So I have one that's a little further along here. I'm just going to swap this out. So as you can see, he's almost done. And as I did each section, I also stuffed it with some stuffing. So if you're like me and you have a dog that is in the process of unstuffing all of his toys, I'm just reusing the stuffing from his toys. And I'm just stuffing it as I go. I'm upcycling. So once I get enough in there that I think it's stuffed in well enough, and as you can see, I've got eyes on this guy, I can keep going and finish it off. Now, the reason I have it at this particular point is I wanted to show you that you also want to put a little loop on it so that you can hang it on your tree. So to do that, as you can see, I have my thread popping up from my bead here. I'm going to put, I think we'll use a size 6 seed bead here. And then I'm going to thread on 15 seed beads. That's 10. You can do whatever number you like. I thought 15 looked right. We're working single thread here. And then I'm just going to come back down through this guy, and I'm going to stitch through, I'm going to add 1 bead first and stitch through my base. So if I pull that all tight, I'm just kind of continuing on with what I already had. So I'm coming back up that last seed bead I put on. And I can see I need to pull everything a little bit tighter here, because it's loose at the beginning of it. Easiest way to pull it tight is to actually just loosen up your loop and then pull it tight again. So then I'm just going to continue on the rest of my way around. And I'll show you a picture when it's finished.